um, Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, my native shaman name. I greet you as always, but I mean this from my heart. Greetings and blessings to every single one of you, and that I hope and always pray that you will continue to accept and receive the blessings from the universe. Now, this particular video, I've been being poked and prodded and kicked by on the angel message board. And to have this discussion, because as I've had discussions before concerning um, the basics of shamanism, and I've stated, and I absolutely firmly believe this, that regardless of what religion you are or whatever belief system you have, um, always meaning that is on the good side or the light side. Not we're not speaking in the darkness at all in this, but that we are all shamans in training. And I did a video earlier today because the angels kind of dropped the Bible in my lap and opened to James chapter 2. And in it was some very interesting things. And it has been going along with some downloads I got starting last week and coming in to the now. And so the angels asked me to say, listen, we need to have this conversation because all of these things are going to be important as we move forward in this transition phase going into the fourth dimension. And I want to put out here right now that if you go to the website, hello, Melanie, blessings again. Thanks for coming and hanging out. The Schumann resonance literally started. There are waves in there that come up and then go back down like this in the last 6, 8 hours. It is the weirdest, in a way, between me and you, some of the creepiest things I've seen. And I've been monitoring the Schumann resonance now for the last year and a half, at least. And I have not seen anything like what has just went on. We've just come out of it's really weird. Oh my goodness. I can't share the screen because of my computer stuff. Sorry about that. But if you just go look up Schumann resonance and look for today, it'll show you the current chart. OMG. And if down at the bottom where the curve starts up like this, if you look close, it almost looks like there's a face in there in the resonance. It's really strange. I'm here to tell you. I took a snapshot of it, and it was I wish I could share it with you. I'm going to figure this YouTube thing out. They made some changes so that I can share the screen with you and show you these things. But anyway, very interesting indeed. Now, the topic of the discussion, though, that I've been prompted over the last week, and I get these ideas, and then I meditate on them, cogitate, give me more information, and they're saying, "Listen, have the discussion." All right, the discussion is original sin. Now, as many of you, hello, Marie, blessings to you, and good afternoon in your realm. It's almost it's 11:35 here Eastern Standard Time in South Georgia. But it's come up. I've seen the topic kind of pop up in certain places, and I think to myself, now I grew up as a Catholic, baptized in the Catholic Church. Had first communion at the age of 7 was the first vision that I had of Mother Mary, and then I had confirmation. All this is Catholic stuff, but altar boy, the whole 9 yards. And my second vision of Mary was at the age of 11. So my connection with whatever the spirit is connected to this, Mother Mary, if you will. Now, I look at Mother Mary as not just a symbol of the Catholic Church, but I look at Mother Mary in ways. There are some Catholics who would literally like to skin me alive for about what I'm about to say. But I think of Mother Mary as a goddess figure, as part of Mother Earth, the mother figure. So much in the Bible is all centered on what the guys did. They don't really talk about the women. And, it's a very biased opinion, in my humble opinion, concerning the Bible. It's all about the guys, and history. It's all about the guys. It's not about the women. And right now, if you follow some of the ancient shaman teachings, wisdoms, and so forth. The Kali Yuga and some Jewish old things, old Sumerian texts. We're going through a 26,000 year cycle that kind of goes up and down like this. And if the center of the universe is here, we go up and down in this. So we're in the cycle to where we've been, everything has been male dominated for the last 2,500 years, more or less. And in that, we are now coming out of this male dominance into the more feminine. And I don't mean the transgender thing, although there's a purpose to some of this, but not for this discussion here. But in that, we are in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I've been singing that since the late 60s, 70s when the song came out. I'm that old. But in listening to this, we are going into this other realm of things. On my discussion earlier, and I've said this in some other videos, we are definitely in the apocalypse. We are in the unveiling. We are in Revelations. Now, but at the same point, I have to reiterate, I do not believe that it's the end of the world. This is not the end of the world. It's the end of crap, okay? It's the unveiling. It's us seeing everything. And recently, the last few days, several places, the Catholic Church is giving quote Pope Francis a hard time. Well, he's not really the Pope. If you look into the Catholic, what is Catholic and how things are, if you do a search on Catholic prophecies and the fact that in Catholic prophecy, this weirdo that's over there now is the last Pope, and that there's going to be either the end of the Catholic Church or such a reconstruction that a pope might not be necessary. I mean, this is some weird, strange ground we're going into. Now, I bring this up because so many things in the Bible, and I was reading some of it today out of James chapter 2. I might have said John earlier, but that he was in Revelations, and sometimes I say John when I actually meant James in reference to today. But let me read this one particular passage to kind of get you all in the feel of where I'm going with this. Now, as many of you may not know, I'm not growing up a Catholic. I read the Bible a lot, but I'm not a Bible thumper. I can't quote you chapter and verse. I can say, well, I think it's in James or it's in Revelations or it's in Daniel. I can give a reference like that. But most of the time, my brain's been so scrambled, all I can say, well, I know there are passages in the Bible that say blah, blah, blah. And many times, like I said it in a video a few days ago, and then today the angels opened up this old version. I mean, it's been prayed to, let me tell you, by a little old lady from Meigs, Georgia. And I got some of this and her belongings after she passed away, and they had an auction. And she was the music teacher and so forth. So there's a lot of prayer in this here book, okay? But I think it was like Southern Baptist or Methodist. But anyway, besides that, in this, it's interesting that there's been several times that I want to look at something and I'll say, Spirit will say, okay, pick up the Bible. I'm like, well, I'm not into this. Nah, there are things in here that are not necessarily religious, but are very much shamanic. If you want a higher power, if you want to understand your higher self, these are just good words. It just makes sense. And here I go. Now, I was very interested in the last verse in chapter 2 of James. Okay. And it says, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works and deeds is dead also. So in an earlier part of this, it says that, the body without the spirit is dead. And that's so true. We know people that it doesn't matter whether or not they're religious or not. It matters whether or not they have a soul, whether or not they use their spirit in any way. So in this context, this is absolutely so very true. So regardless of what religion you is, this is a very true statement. If there isn't a spirit within the body, then the body is dead. It's a zombie. How many people do we know like that? or teetering on that. But also faith, and I did a video on this before. This is just interesting because a few days ago I was talking about faith, and the Bible opens up. I had faith in what the angels were saying, and it ended up with this chapter 2 in James. Just okay, synchronicity, all right. But I'm listening to my higher self. That's the basic part about this. But so faith without works and deeds is dead also. So in this particular verse of the Bible, it has to do with, you may think good thoughts and you may say prayers but if you don't act on it, and I don't mean just giving 10% to the church and that being, that okay, that your duty is, that's it, no. All right. So prefacing this little conversation here, I want to jump to original sin. Why does this have anything to do with it? Because it's related to the spirit. All right. So as we are, somehow our spirit enters our body. Now there are a lot of different shamanic, religious, we're karmic spirits and we're being reincarnated or that type of thing. Edgar Cayce talks about that basically we're in a holding pattern until our souls are needed in what our soul contract is, whatever our higher self, whatever the higher spirit is. It was up to me to go through what I needed to go through in order to set things correctly. I'm speaking about me. I needed to come here at this time now, do some of the things that I've done, learn about Native Americans because of things in my past that I was a karmic butthole. And that, man, oh man, was I really a nasty person on this property many years ago. And there's things that I'm still working out because of what I did 100 or so years ago. It's a strange story, but not for now. My point to this is, though, when I came back to this place, I had an original sin because I was here before in another lifetime. I did some heinous things. I mean, like kill, murder, maybe not a good person. I know that there was a child involved. I don't think I did anything to the child, but what it was is that my wife, who was Cherokee, not necessarily my child, the child died and I dishonored it by just digging a hole and plopping the child in and saying, well, she's dead, big deal. And I'm suffering greatly for that because of what I did way back when. Now, so in that respect, this lifetime, I had an original sin that I needed to, and I've done ceremony here on this property with my own blood, never sacrifice anything else, but only my own blood in a sacrifice to amends for what I did in a previous lifetime on this particular parcel that I'm currently living on. So it's very interesting in that. Now I'm going to spread that out into, most of you know that I was raised a Catholic. And so, as, altar boy, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. All right. To the Catholic Church, that's not blah, blah, blah. But one of the things they teach, and I have always pondered, I mean, they would just, stop asking questions, Dave, because, you have to have faith. And my thought about this, and then it's been made clear to me, and I've discussed this previously, but here's the deal. How can I, as the spirit coming in from heaven, if I am one of Creator God, Creator's creations, and I come down here into this body to do maybe a specific thing, like for my instance, to try to make up for a horrible wrong that I did in previous life here. So I have a specific journey, path, whatever. And also, as Mother Mary has told me, to help have conversations with other people like yourselves to help enlighten and bring us all to, to a higher realm of thinking. So with that said, though, in a lot of things, it's like, okay, so how, if I'm a pure being of creation, can I have an original sin? Now, as a Catholic child growing up, we had catechism. We had religion class one period every day, most of my life. I graduated in 1970 from Tampa Catholic. And so we have religion class all the time. We were always going to mass and doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I've always wondered, but wait a minute. If I was pure at birth and everything was groovy, then who gave me this original sin? What the F did I do in a previous life, not knowing that I'm speaking as a young man, a youngin', what could I have done that I needed to be baptized? And over the years, I've understood that what it basically boils down to is I was baptized into the club of the church. So anytime anymore, and I know many people who are reborn, they have to get baptized again. I'm like, but hang on. Now I can understand being baptized into a church or a group or organization and symbolically washing myself of my previous sins in this life. But now, as a child just born and being baptized into the Catholic Church, having done absolutely nothing, how the F can I have sinned? What did I do? Who did what? Wait a minute. Now, you baptize me and they go through the whole spiel. You know what I mean. But to the point of, though, who says I have sin on my soul? Who makes that determination? I've always wondered this. Now, in reading Revelations today and reading James and some other things, and just my thoughts in general, it's that and this is part of the title of this thing, that in Revelations, and I'll try to read a passage here in a minute, but let me just stay on this thought, is that everything is that well, once we pass over to the other side, and once we ascend or transition or whatever, as in Revelations, that we are going to be the servants of God. And everything in here in the last few verses of Revelations is about how we're all going to be servants. Now, this popped up recently, I mean, like since 6 o'clock tonight and now, in that, wait a minute, hang on. From a Native American tradition or from just a spiritual position, if you want to understand the source energy and creator and the fact that we have free will in the universe, then this book is telling us that we're going to end up after we pass, but we're going to be servants to a God. Now, in my realm, in the shaman's realm, we are not servants to anything, because we have free choice. Now, so with that said, how can somebody say, okay, we all have original sin? Now, I can understand being baptized at my age with some of the crap I've pulled, pour some water over my head, I could use it. Now, symbolically, many years ago, when I got my official Indian name, it was done through a sweat lodge. So there was a lot of water that was coming out of me. There was a ceremony. It took several days. It was intense. And that's how I, quote, gained my name, Hawkeye Two Feathers, officially. Now, so with that said, though, but there was a lot of water involved, but it was sweating it out, and it was the pain and the things and the things that I wasn't still I'm not proud of. But you know, you have to reach a particular point where you say, I'm asking for forgiveness from Creator, from God. I hate using that word, but I really do hate. I spoke about that, and I really do hate using the word God. I'd much rather use Creator or Source, and we understand, because in my book, God is over heaven, and heaven is a closed community and nowhere near part of the rest of the universe. So if I understand that my spirit is part of the universe from a shamanistic point of view, which is beyond what the Bible teaches, because if it's saying here that, you know, that we're now, we still, before we can get to the other side, we still need to be good people. But I'm curious at the revelations in that after we do this, we're all going to become, quote, servants of God. And I'm like, but wait a minute, what happened to the free will? So I bring this up because also in another section of Revelations, which is like in chapter 18 or 19, and there's a reference, maybe. But anyway, there's a reference to different stones. There are 12 different types of stones in the 12 different levels of this temple being built. All right. And the top one, for example, is amethyst. And I just found that curious. But then a few lines down in the next paragraph, it says that, and, something is made like glass. Now, I want to stop and ask you about this question. Back in the days of Jesus, is there any reference to there being glass in any window? I mean, just take a second. I'm taking what they call in theater, I'm taking a pregnant pause. Think about it. And back in the days of Aristotle and the Greeks and the Romans, do you see any of those houses or anything, or back in Judea or in Jerusalem? I mean, you don't see glass in some of those houses now. So now in the Bible, that's supposed to be written around the time of Jesus, they're using references like glass. Wait a minute. It took them a while to figure out how to make glass. I mean, even the Chinese used really thin rice paper, and they hung it as panes of glass. They still use that in dividers and things. It's ingenious. But at the same point, it's like, wait a minute. So here's this Bible that's using the 16 something version from King James himself, is relating to something that back in the day they were referring to something like glass, when I don't know, the Egyptians didn't have glass. They had porcelain types of things, but where's the reference to glass? I'm just pointing this out, okay? And in that, wait a minute, there are all kinds of weird discrepancies about what was going on, what they considered something to be. And from my perspective, look back and see where glass, when it was invented, they started perfecting it, was a lot later than the time of Jesus and the apostles. So how could they use the reference of glass? Just pointing that out there. But at the same point, I'm using that because there's been so many inconsistencies within the Bible. This original sin. Now, the next thing is, if you believe in the Christian belief, which I do, with some modifications there, is that Jesus came here with a specific reason to save us from our sins. He died for our sins. Now, if that's true, so when Jesus died, he washed away the sins of mankind. So then, therefore, his death represented the end of original sin. So then why, for the last 2,000 years or more, are the churches still maintaining that we have an original sin, and that you believe that Jesus came to wash the sin from us? So that's an oxymoron. So do we actually have original sin? I question it, and I always have. I mean, I'm not a Catholic, haven't been for a long time for other reasons, but I would still question this. And the answer that they gave me consistently, well, that's one of those mysteries, and you just must believe and have faith. And I'm like, but that just don't sit with me. So in my opinion, and truth be known, it sounds like a construct of the church. Because all of the churches, most of them preach, if it's not doom and gloom, it's all about the suffering of Jesus. They talk about his good works, but then he died on the cross and he bled and he saved us from our sins. But we all going to go to the river and be baptized. We have to be born again. Well, okay, at my age, if I were to join a church, I got 66 years. Oh, I could see where I needed to be baptized, but not originally as just born on this planet and come into this meat skin. And you're trying to convince me that I have a sin when I got here? Oh, and you got to cleanse me from it and douse me with water, and bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I am 3 days old and I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Excuse me, but that was important right there, because it doesn't make any effing sense. It just doesn't. I mean, from a logical standpoint, and it's like, well, you're trying to criticize Christian doctrine. Well, but see, there you go. Is it Jesus, or is it, quote, Christian doctrine? Not what really happened or not what's really going on, but that's the Christian, finger quotes, doctrine. So they get us all to believe in this, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, wait a minute. There are inconsistencies here. Now, I totally believe in Christ before and after the crucifixion. So I'm kind of in a whole lot different place than other people, but I believe that Christ consciousness is back here on this earth. So if you want to think that, oh, I'm trying to knock Jesus or something, actually, I'm trying to defend him. I'm trying to defend what the true word of Jesus may have been, is that he was a shaman. Like all of us, we're all seeking this higher realm of thinking, this higher self. This, some people, you know me, I don't like the word ascension, because before we ascend, we've got to make the transition. We got to go through the wading pool first. You've heard my description of that, and we're in the wading pool right now, because the veil's being lifted. The end of the crap is here. We can see it all around us. There are cosmic things going on. I mean, I just saw the Schumann resonance, and I was listening to some of my cosmic friends, and we're always having conversations off planet here with different YouTube videos and people and so forth, chats. And we were all like, well, Drake Bailey, for example, not to drop names, but he said, we were going to be hitting some funky anomalies here shortly. Well, today, just a few hours ago, some of the funkiest anomalies I've ever seen happened on and it showed up on the Schumann resonance. OMG. So, there are signs out there if you're willing to look around as to what's going on. Now, can I prove that it's ET or this and that? No, but there's some strange phenomena dang sure going on. Now, with that said, so we are in a really impressive, interesting point of light in the universe. And each one of us, especially you folks, and I'm so humbled that you show up and allow me to speak with you, but we're all looking for that whatever can help us be better people in the long run. And so when we take charge of who we are and the energy we wish to portray, we are so much closer to what needs to be done, so that the transition is easier for us. Whether we truly go through into the fourth dimension and all this other kind of stuff, it doesn't really matter. But what is the truth is we got some funky stuff going on. Everybody's being affected by this, where the unveiling of truths are coming through. And so today, with the angel messages about, the James chapter 2 and this conversation now, these angel messages are for everybody. Let's pay attention to some of these things, because we all need to be higher beings. Without the soul, the body is nothing. It's dead. We are all zombies in that respect. And I'm sorry, but I choose not to be a zombie. There are days when I am, but that's another story. And there are folks who are like, oh, we're a part of the matrix. Only if you choose so. I choose not to be a part of the mechanical matrix. Hi, Bob. I see you in there. And yes, I've got coffee, and it's time to take a sip break. Sip, not break. But the idea that we have an original sin, I've never been sold on that. And so, but I do think that, and many of us know that we are reincarnated from somewhere. There are things that we know, things we understand, and other people just don't get us. That's okay. And that's one of the things that, moving into the fourth dimension, if you wish to believe that, is that, or the transition. Now, as a person, I mean, I watched my grandmother, who I had an ESP kind of relationship with. I've talked about my granny before. But as she was dying, I watched her glow. Her skin changed colors. She changed. There was an aura about her. I watched her transition before she ascended into heaven. In one of the most interesting things I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. But I've witnessed similar things, other people, but I was not near as close as I was with my granny. So I bring this up in that there is more to this. whether you have religion or not. We are going to go through these changes when we transition from this dirtbag 3D, we're all going to die from at some point. It just is what it is, and we make that transition to the whatever the next level is for us. Now, you know me, I try not to get caught up on third dimension, fourth dimension, but we are in 3D. That's an obvious. Whether or not the transition is into the fourth, we are definitely changing our reality. Everyone's reality is being changed one way or another. And some folks are going back crap cray cray. And, I haven't been using that term much, but all you got to do is just look around. And it seems like some folks have jumped out that deep end. I didn't think they could jump off again, but it's almost like they climbed back up the cliff to jump off into the deep end again. It's like, whoa, this is like crazy. Have you people not learned this? Or that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over again and expecting, the same results when you don't succeed the first time, be an idiot and bang your head against the wall some more. But there is also something in that, a drop of water, if it continues to drop in the same place for long enough, it will make a hole. It'll drive a person crazy when they do the drip drip water Chinese thingy. Not fun. I tried it just to see what it was like. And knowing that I could like move my head at any time, allowing that drip of water to hit your third eye kind of thing, it's a really strange experience. If you want to experience torture, what torture may be like, but you have total control, but which is interesting because in a way, to use like the Chinese water torture, which is the drip, it's really easy to do with a little bit of water, and you can put a gallon in there, sit under it and just think about what that would mean in the long term, and would that drive you nuts? But at the same time, for me, is I was able to meditate on the drips, and in a way, also kind of transcend away from what would normally be called torture to some people. I was almost finding a zen in that. Now, but I had total control of the situation. I wasn't tied to a table, so there was a lot of other things. But at the point, I wanted to just feel like what it was like. Interesting. Okay. What does this have to do with original sin and Revelations and etc.? Well, in Revelation, some of the other discrepancies, they also, and rather than going through here, it's usually between chapter 12 and 19. So you can kind of scan through there, but there are places in there, and it depends on the version of the King James. And the old Catholic Bible that I have referred to many times has it differently as well, in that there are ancient beings that are sitting up there with God. But wait a minute. What do you mean, ancient beings? I'm not going to waste your time to try to look for the passage, but it talks about the ancients. And I said, well, wait a minute, hang on. I thought there were angels and God and everything. Well, who are these ancient beings then? Or the wise ones? There's in different versions of the King James Version, they kind of tiptoe around it, but it's the ancient ones, the wise ones, the old ones, or, but it's all, but hang on. Who are they? If they're up there right now sitting around with God, wait a minute, who are these people or beings, or what are they? But it stipulates also in the Revelations that we're all going to be servants to them when we leave here. Now, in my context, first you're going to tell me that I've got an original sin that Jesus was supposed to have fixed. So all of us born after Jesus should have had our slate cleaned, except for what we do in this life. And I absolutely firmly believe that. And so anything wrongs that I've done in this life, absolutely baptize me if I want to become a part of one of the clubs. But at the same point, are you kidding me? My children weren't born with original sin. My grandchildren weren't born with original sin because they were young. When you see a newborn come out and you look at that thing and you're trying to tell me I got to rush to the church and have it baptized, because in the Catholic belief, if this child should die before it's baptized, it's going to go to baby hell. It don't get to heaven. it goes into a baby purgatory, and its soul is just lost. Sort of like the Lost Boys and Peter Pan. I'm like, they taught us this in the the Catechism, in the Catholic Church, and it's like, but hang on, what? You're trying to tell me that if this baby is born before it gets water on it, it's not going to go back to heaven? No, sorry, it didn't have its sprinkling. And I never could believe that neither. And I still don't to this very day. But this is the church doctrine. This is something somehow they made up. This is what I'm telling you now are things that I've understood for a long time. I'm bringing this to topic of discussion because and what I'm saying is a part of the unraveling. It's the unveiling. And I was taught some of these things back in the 90s or the 70s with Sister Helene. So some of these things are going to sound blasphemous, but what you have to understand is the lifting of the veil and the apocalypse, this revelations, is going to be revealing to all. So you have to do is just do a little bit of study into what Catholic prophecy is through the Catholic Church, not somebody else's, but I mean a priest who was sort of like a Nostradamus in the Catholic Church, wrote a bunch of predictions and everything. And the current Pope, I hate to say Francis because that's a blasphemy on his part, to the real Francis, who was a kind being and could have very well been a Christ consciousness. It's very possible that Saint Francis of Assisi was a reincarnation of the Christ consciousness because of who, what, and he was a healer. I mean, I know there are conflicting stories, but even if some of them are a little left, right, pushed, high, or not reported on enough, I learned enough back before they could change the narrative that St. Francis was almost burned at the stake by his fellow Franciscans because he didn't want money to be gathered. He wanted to give, if somebody gave him $1, he was going to give it to a poor person. He wasn't even going to take it back to the church. He was going to just give it to somebody else to go buy bread and then pass it out to everybody who needed it. And the rest of them, and the true St. Francis, he was like, no, I don't even want you to start a sect of the church. I'm just who I am. But please, he was all against having the Franciscans to be born. He was totally against it, much like Christ would feel if he's seen it, but to the point is, no, this is not what I meant, guys. I didn't think you were going to spend millions of dollars and all, think of all the blood, the toil and everything that's gone into churches and the religion part of it and the burning of the stake and the wars of the crusades and the devastation. Do you think Christ really meant that when he was here? If you believe in the Christ consciousness, do you think that's what Christ meant through all these ages? So, do you absolutely believe that we had an original sin, that somehow our karma was so flippin' bad that within a few days of being born, we had to be sanctified somehow? I've never believed it. As well as some of these things in the Bible that are like, well, wait a minute, how can they discuss glass when they didn't have glass in the days of Jesus? Not the way we think about it. So how could they use the reference? Just asking the question, not trying to be, but there are things that we read them and go, oh, we just skipped right over that. My eye catches things like that. Wait a minute. How can John, who had a vision, be talking about glass? Does he know what glass is? He was an apostle. They lived in, wait a minute, hang on. So what it does is it makes me question the way they have weaved some of the lies into the Bible. So there are so many good truths in that. But at the same point, wait a minute, they weave some other kind of agenda, if you will, into it. And so I've been asked several times, and I do believe this, call it the cabal, call it whoever you want to. But there are references like, how in the world did John write about glass in Revelations, because glass didn't necessarily exist? I mean, they were using clay jars for a long time. They find them on the bottom of the ocean. That's how they were able to transport wine and goods and things. But so glass, and then windows, got to think about that one, please. But in that respect, that just shows you that when we read things like that, we just kind of gloss right over it, glass reference. But in that we don't see that maybe that's part of the agenda. They have to follow their lesson plan. They wrote it into the Bible. They have manipulated some of these things for a long time. And many of us are seeing it. That is Revelations. That is where we are right now. Now, to continue, it's been referenced many times here just recently. So I consider it a synchronicity with me and the spirits and the angels and with the rest of the other spiritual folk who are talking about it. In that, I'm going to repeat myself, but many of us feel like we're in a tunnel. But we need to understand that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that also that in the Bible, in Revelations, I've yet to find the passage, so I'm going to get it to you one of these days soon. But in that, there are 1,000 days of peace. And 1,000 days, or I'm sorry, 1,000 years. But 1,000 years to John, depending on the reference, could mean 1,000,000 or 10,000. So we kind of have to look at like, well, wait a minute. If all of these lifting of the veil, if the Christ consciousness is back, if all of these prophecies, and many of them have already come true, the Pope is the Antichrist. He is the extension of God on the earth. When you understand old lore from the Catholic Church, you will understand that they built these things into their agenda, and they're playing by their rule book. And they, the last temple. Now, in reading Revelations, just before I started this 45 minutes ago ish, I was reading that the temple will be seen from heaven. That they're talking about the third temple in Jerusalem, but I was reading and I'm like, wait a minute, but you see it, but it's from above. Now, wouldn't that be maybe some of these huge motherships that have been videoed, and from what some of the ET has been saying? Now, I know I'm on the Bible and now I'm on ET, but my point to that is that, wait a minute, there have been pictures and things of the cities in the skies in China and in other parts of the world, but mostly I think in China and in that sort of area over there. And so wait a minute, what if the cities in the sky, is that the Jerusalem? Does that actually fit the prophecy? Now, maybe it's not over Israel, maybe it's not, quote, Jerusalem, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of twisty turnies in this. So why couldn't Jerusalem actually be from the New Jerusalem? Has nothing to do with Israel or the Jews, no offense to them, but that it's totally different. It's from above. And that with this, there will be things descending into our realm. And as we learn about these higher beings, and you've heard me talk about it in other videos, so we learn how to make the transition. We ascend then, or take the stairs, is what most of us are going to do. It's really hard to go up a bunch of floors in an elevator. You get seasick, all that. At least I did. But anyway, but to the point, so we take the stairs. But each step is a blessing and a lesson as we learn. And each step we take into ascension as part of the transition is so that we acclimate ourselves to this other reality. We have to do this. But my point to this is that if you understand how old our souls truly are, how did we have an original sin? If we were created with true source energy, and I'm using the Bible and Catholic tradition, if we were made in the image and likeness of God, source, creator, how could we have an original sin? If we were made in the image of God, then there is no blank spot. There is no sin. There can't be, because you just told me that we were made in the image and likeness of God. So therefore, us having original sin can't be possible then. Now it could on the planet. Jesus came, he died, and washed away previous and made it clear for the future, meaning none of us should have been baptized into their club. I was, and I've questioned them, like, wait a minute, they get you before you even, did they ask me as a 3-day-old, do you consent, Hawkeye, David, to being baptized, and then the lemon and the salt and all the hokey pokey stuff? Wait a minute, maybe you just cursed my ass for the rest of my life. I didn't even give you permission, and you did it to me anyway. And they do that all the time. But because of original sin, this is the psyche in the back of the head. And my point with this conversation, is it even possible for any of us to have an original sin if we were created from the original source creator of goodness? It would be impossible for us to have an original sin. Just logically thinking, it would be impossible for us to have a stain on our soul if we were made by the true creator. Now, what we do in each lifetime, now that can accumulate into karmic, stains on us, different. I'm talking about original sin, the construct thereof. Now, in the Catholic thing, it's like a really big deal. Now, I can't speak about other religions because they don't have catechism class like the Catholics do normally. Now, there's Bible study and things, but my point to that is that I'm relating all of my experiences in this particular regard about, it is based primarily on the catechism of the Catholic Church. All right. So, but that still is basically church doctrine, having nothing to do with God or creator or the source or anything else. Because if you believe in the one true source energy, God creator, then we are born with that same light energy. We are angels. We are source energy ourselves. We on this planet, we're taught different things. Now, some of us bring some karmic energy, like I did, into this place to try to fix it now. But I understand what my mission is. So, but other people, you're trying to say that, now I've met some folks, they damn sure had some baggage with them. They don't even know where they got it from, but and I'm meaning some karmic energy. But we all have the free choice to rid ourselves of that. Now, I can say as an adult, I wish to go and baptize myself of the sins that I committed in this lifetime. Now, in my shaman journey, I've realized, whoa, holy crap, I've created some things in another lifetime, maybe one before that. But I know the last one I was here, I was a real butthead. I had bad karmic energy, but I was given the opportunity to fix it. Now, that's between me and my place and here and all that. But to each one of us, and I've noticed in some people, and recently here within like this last year, people are having these built up anxieties, things over the years, and then spirit motivates them to get in a car and drive 3 states over to go visit something, or to go make a pilgrimage to something, or to go visit a relative, or to go do it. It's been amazing. I've had relatives who've had similar things happen here recently, and it's encouraging. It's sad because they've had to move on from wherever their life has been, but they're moving in a direction that is to bring them more spirituality. And for that, I'm like, but we all got to find, if we're on the wrong path, which is more painful, to continue down a path that isn't true, or to say, somehow me and my partner or whatever I was doing, we got off the path I need to be on. And I can still be in pain and go walk through a briar bush, you know, or I can say, wait a minute, you go off in the briar patch. I'm gonna stick on my red road here. I'm gonna stick with, I don't have to necessarily being a really good person or an angel in any respect, but we all know we've met people, had instances in our lifetimes to where it just that ain't it, and you've got to take this other path for survival, if nothing else. And we know people who well, it's like in an abusive relationship or something. Get the F out, please. Well, I don't know what it'll do. But if you don't get out, then you will never know. So there are different things for different people and different lifestyles and different upbringings and different things. But the first thing they do to us in religion through the doctrine is to make us feel guilty. So everything we do, well, I don't know, is that a sin? Well, did you hurt anything? Oh, no. You looked at a girly magazine. You're going to hell. Wait a minute. Sorry, but, what? Now, back in my day, a girly magazine was like, if they showed the end of the breast, it was like a big deal. There was no kind of, there was blue porn and there were like 8mm movies and things. It was really strange back in my day. Now you click a button and porn's all over the place, which is for a different subject. But in that, it's like, but wait a minute. Now, I'm not saying porn's good or bad, but that's for another subject. But the idea is that they make us feel guilty from the day that we're born, that somehow we have to achieve a better self, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I just came here to wander around and go fishing. Well, but you're an underachiever. Well, I don't know. Have you ever tried to go fishing every day and maintain a lifestyle of any kind? That's some tough work. It's easier to go to a 9-to-5 job and just, make a decent living and forget about it. It's really difficult to fish every day and live an outdoor life or whatever. It's difficult. I'm a hermit down here in the woods. It's difficult. You plant a garden, you got to wait 2.5, 3 months before you see anything, any benefit, unless it's a green. So you work, you wait, you hope for rain, you pick off bugs, and then at the allotted time, if you had a bad whatever, then you're SOL. So it's like, so people say, well, oh, that kind of lifestyle, seems like they're copping out. No, you try it, but anyway, but that's 2 different points. But in that, though, which lifestyle is more palatable to the soul? Which keeps us in a higher vibration? What makes sense in this world? Hi, Breaking Dawn, Marie, Quartz, it's good to see you. And One Cup, 2 people, blessings to you. I'm sorry, I was on a roll. I did see you kind of pop up, but if I read what you got, I'm going to be deviated. And it seems like they want me to finish this conversation here. But anyway, but the idea of the original sin. So even in any kind of context, but only through reincarnation would I believe that I have, quote, an original sin. And I've discussed mine in this previous one. And I realize why I'm here now. And I'm doing, hopefully, what it takes to make amends for my previous life. Now, does that work for everybody? No, but it could. It depends on who you are and what your purpose is. If nothing else, we are here at this time in the planet's history, its life, its origin. When I talked about the Schumann earlier, oh my God, it started up like this, and then it went across, and then it went back. Weird, I'm telling you. So something's going on in the cosmos. And we can all agree upon that because it's on all the instruments. Now, what it's going to do to us and how we get to the other side of this, we got to use our own brains. We got to use our own thought process. So in my conversation about original sin, I'm planting a seed in your brain. Yeah, it's my fault. But as an awareness, let me think about that. Because if they planted this seed and they lay the guilt trip on us, and the Christians are doing it to me now, in that, oh my God, some of the stuff you're saying, Hawkeye, is blasphemy. You're a heretic. I was told I was going to be called a heretic, but I'm trying to preach about Christ and the discrepancy that's in this book here. Now, this was a 1611 version that I don't see the printing, but this is an old Bible. This lady, lived for many years, and this was her personal Bible. I can feel her presence on it, if you will, and she prayed for a lot of people. Oh my God, the prayers in this thing. But it also, when I need clarification with spirit and angel messages, it's like this old lady brings and opens the book and says, well, here's a verse for you. Wow. And it's applicable regardless of your faith. It just makes sense, and we damn sure can't take it with us. But now, to the idea of the original sin, that's going to be a big leap for everybody. But if you stop and think about it, well, anybody born after Jesus should have had the slate cleaned. Now, other people have talked about this, so this is not like a real new concept, but to a lot of people, it's a very new concept. But with that said, I ask you, because of just these teachings, that if Creator made us in the image and likeness, how could we ever have anything other than light on our souls when we're originally created? Now, through our lifetimes, yes, we can accumulate them. Now, maybe this is a supposition. They're telling me this is part of the deal. Now, maybe, for example, me, in a previous life, I done some crap. Well, maybe I did some previous crap in another galaxy, in another universe, maybe even in another dimension. And I got demoted to come back down here because I really messed up someplace else in the universe. Now it's like, well, wait a minute. Well, why can't that happen? Well, if you understand that, well, if I'm going to die from out of this meat bag, I'm going to become an angel again, or I'm going to become a spirit or a soul or whatever. Well, we always are. Now there are those zombies, but we always are our spirit beings. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So if we understand that we're going to revert back to our energy cells, then how could we somehow attain sin out there as a light being? How do we accumulate negative energy unless we get sucked through some kind of something else? But the thing is that, well, wait a minute. I was a light being. I came down here, got into this body. Whoops, got to baptize in original sin. And if I'm going to die from here, now I can understand that I can accumulate things during my trip here. And that when I leave, if I haven't resolved them, I can carry them with. That's why I'm back here now. But to the point, though, does that necessarily make me an evil being? Or does it put a couple of bad spots on this otherwise clear soul that was created by Creator, image and likeness? Now, in that, I go, we all have the opportunity to fix previous things, current things, and sometimes what may be happening in the very near future, and how we respond to things. So it's like, So I'm posing the question in my shamanic belief. I had no original sin. I have accumulated negative energy in my journeys all through my lifetimes, in all existences, all planets, all phases, other dimensions, until I got here. And that in order for me to make any kind of higher self, I need to clear them up. I need to be aware of them. That's my journey. But each of us, in our own way, whether you use the Bible or not, is that we are all trying to be better selves, better angels. We already were perfect angels when He created us and sent us down here. It's through the guilt and the sins and all the other things in society that fills us with guilt that we make, that we create these problems between us, and then hate builds, and we mistrust each other, and relationships are broken and shattered, and the hell is here on earth. Can you imagine changing back into your angel self and ending in a place that's worse than this crap? I'm just saying. But to the point, though, there are many folks who believe that hell is on earth and is part of our own creation. I've talked about my time in prison, and you just have to make the best that you can with where in the bad situation. So, I think in my own self that even if I were sent to a bad place, that my consciousness of my soul is such that in my previous journeys and now here, that I would try to figure out a way to wait a minute. I don't belong in this negative area. I may have done some negative things which got me here, like jail, but I got there for the wrong reason. And in my own respect, even if I get sent to another reality because of my karmic something that may have happened whenever, is that I have the free choice to go, whatever it was, I'm choosing now to do better from this point on and into the future. And my focus is to clear up as much as I possibly can. We just need to do that, regardless of religion. So, but first we must break our earthly bonds. So I bring up original sin in this context, in that it's a lifelong guilt trip for us Catholics, Christians kind of folk. If we don't drop that yoke of guilt, then how can we ascend? How can we transition? Because we're like, well, I don't know about this original sin. What about the blood of Jesus and the Lamb and all this stuff? And wait a minute, you mean I got to go serve God after I get out of here? What the hell am I doing here? I thought I was going to be here so I could go become an angel, but I got to go serve him some more? What the have I been doing these last 66 years? Huh? Anyway, I know I'm getting a little comical in this, but at the same time, some of this stuff is just, the more I look at it, I'm like, wait a minute, why didn't as a child and growing up in school, I was always getting the ruler because I was asking questions that to me at 66 is still dumb and ridiculous. 56 years later, as a 10-year-old, I'm asking them questions, and the nuns and the priests, and they're like, oh, shut up. You got to have faith. But this don't make sense, sister. Shut up. Whack. Yes, ma'am. Okie dokie. But I still don't get it. Slap. I was always getting whacked. Anyway, I had cuts on my hands where the old wooden rulers with the steel edge. Oh, my God. Those really hurt when they miss them. Anyway, but, paddled in class for something I didn't do because I wouldn't shut my mouth and I was always wisecracking. I was that guy, or one of them anyway. But not to try to be funny like Bart Simpson. I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. Little quips kept coming up because I was like, but that just sounds stupid. Oh, shut up. Come up here. We're going to paddle you again. But tell me how. Wait a minute. I don't get this. Okie dokie, bye. Slap, slap. Anyway. But so I hope that I'm going to put my glasses on here in a second. I hope that this little bit of rendition has sparked a little thing in the back of your head. We got to clear up our current guilt that they've put on us on this plane, and whatever background we may each carry. Some people may not have any baggage that brought it into this plane. That's okay. I'm not trying to, judge any of y'all. But, only you can say, well, I think I've got some karmic baggage. Here's the thing in the shaman realm, whether or not you have baggage, whether or not you have brought baggage into this realm is immaterial. It absolutely makes no difference, because when you make a decision in this realm, regardless of your belief system, whatever, but when you make a decision and your own verbal look in the mirror, soul face contract with self, I choose to be a better person, a better spiritual being. I wish to be a higher spiritual being. I wish to just do better, please. And ask the universe, not any specific God, but but to the point, when you make that conscious move Anything that has preceded that is now under a new contract. Now, I spoke these things out verbally. I've said things with y'all live. And as I speak them, I am making, every time I speak these things, I'm reaffirming my own contract that I made to continue to do better, continue to share, continue to grow in whatever I need to do. And I'm asking Creator and nature and spirit, you guys, how can we grow? To some folks, I am a great shaman. In my opinion, I'm still a trainee. I'm still a tenderfoot at this because I still haven't figured out how to walk through a wall yet. But it's a joke, but it isn't. But it is, but it isn't. Anyway, it's a higher dimensional joke. Ha ha ha. But with that said, though, we need to take care of the guilt of the original sin. Well, if it didn't exist and you understand these things in a higher realm, not in the box of what they say is the Christian doctrine religion thing, when you think outside without a box, then you realize, oh my God, I could be 1,000,000 years old. Literally. My spirit, when I'm unshackled from here, we all are 1,000,000-year-old carbon, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash sang on Teach Your Children. But in that, it's true. How old do we actually think we are? 1,000 years old? Oh, I was with the Egyptians. I've got some memories of being on one of the moons of Jupiter and being able to see Jupiter, the planet, going, whoa, that's really freaky. Ain't that cool? I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then I see pictures of the Cassini and all these other, supposed satellites that went out there and took pictures. And I go, oh my God, I got visions in my head that match that. Wow, that's weird. Acid trip? I don't know. Was it a shaman journey? Maybe. But I have vivid recollections of things that later on I saw pictures of and went, I know I somehow already know about that. Now, how would I know it? Why would I already see it in my head unless it's a different timeline, a deja vu, or unless I've actually been there to see it? And that's like triggering an old karma or an old soul or something. So, and a lot of people now, especially now with these energies and things, this is also part of the unveiling. It's part of this revelation. So as we transcend, which we've got to make this transition first, because what if you could for example, see an infrared, so that you just didn't see the things that you see, that all of a sudden you've got those green glasses on and you can see other stuff. You can see spirit beings, you can see things that are warm. Oh my God. But in that reality, that's sort of where we're headed. So in our perception of things, imagine if somebody just one day put on those green goggles, day and night, and that was your new reality. Now that would freak most people out. It would take a little getting used to. So what they're trying to do right now in this transition period is getting us used to these night vision goggles a little bit at a time, so we don't all get freaked out and our brains go pop. And that's just a small part of this understanding. But in that, it even relates to us, because I watched it with my granny when she was dying. She was tuning her spirit into where she was headed and where she went. And so some of the things in this 3D reality were kind of like, it was almost like she could put her hand through the chair and she would go like, oh, there's the tables there. But at the same point, she would reach out and grab something, and in her transition period to dying, she was holding a glass of water. She was holding something in her hand when there wasn't anything that I could see, but she could see it. She could feel it. But in my watching her as she was doing these things just days before she passed, she looked at me and she goes, oh, David, you can't really see that, can you? And I was like, Grandma, I understand. It's cool, but and I was like, and I understand. Although I could not see them, I could perceive through her eyes and through our ESP connection. I could see through her eyes what was going on. So, in my experiences and so forth, so I understand this thing in a different realm. But when you really get this other realm deal and that it's really real, then we just need to concentrate and continue to concentrate because of all the chaos around us. We are always light beings, regardless of what happens. We will continue to be light beings, whether some of us make it in this transition or not. Some people are going to have to stay in the kiddie pool for a while those of us might get to the mezzanine rather quickly. That doesn't mean we made the ascension. It just means we got up a flight of stairs a lot easier because we have basic construct understandings. And as I'm talking and you're listening and we're communicating, and that higher self is like really present. uh, I can feel the connection with the angels right now, very, very, my spirit guide really strong right now. And it's like, blessings to all of you. I continue to say the prayer, continue to accept and receive these healings, the knowledge and the blessings from the universe. They're telling me, y'all keep it up. Good work, thumbs up. There are still, I say snags, but there are still things we got to go through. I was looking at the earthquake map today and took a screenshot of it. And there were earthquakes in Rhode Island. It was like a 2 point something in Rhode Island. There was a 1.7, another one in Pennsylvania. There were 2 earthquakes in Northwest Georgia, on the southern tip of the Appalachian Mountains down there on the border of Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. There were 3 or 4 new earthquakes within the last week now, and in 4 different towns in eastern Tennessee and in western Tennessee, down along the Atlantic Ridge. In the last week, there have been two up around Iceland. We'll come down a little ways. There's another. All these were above 4. Then down a little further out from Venezuela and Brazil, out there in the mid-Atlantic, there were 2 of them. One was a 5 point something, and the other one was like a 4.8 in the same exact spot. So, and down in the Caribbean, of the Nicaragua and Guatemala and Mexico are getting hammered with 4s and 5s and even upper 6s. Peru had a 7.1 just the other day. Before I came on with this video, I checked the live stream on USGS earthquakes and noticed that Alaska, there were 4 or 5 brand new, because they show up in red, earthquakes in Alaska, all the way down the chain and into the Aleutian Islands. And it's like Mother Earth is expanding. The energy's coming in. So, whether you believe in the theory of the expanding Earth or whatever, if we were shrinking, this kind of stuff wouldn't be going on. But with all the pulses and all of these energies, Mother Earth is expanding, and these are all the expansion gaps, in the sidewalk. They put those little gaps every so often. Those are for the expansion and contraction of the concrete. When it gets real hot, it expands, it mushes the tar or whatever in between them out. When it gets real cold, there's gaps this far between the concrete slabs. Contraction and expansion. It's interesting how much something can actually expand and contract, especially cement. I was surprised. But anyway, with that said, so there are many realities that we've been taken for granted in society. We just all kind of, anybody in the Christian realm, if you will, we all have to be baptized because we've had this sin before. Nobody speaks about, well, Jesus died for our sins, but they don't say that, wait a minute, that means we didn't have original sin when we were born. So just consider these things, keep them in mind, because this is part of the revelation. These are the angel messages that are going to look through the Bible, and there are certain things you're going to go. When I saw that reference to glass, I was like, how in the hell did they know about glass in the day of Jesus? What? I mean, just saying, they still had stone wheels, I mean, where did the glass come from? How could they use the reference? It had to have been inserted later, is my point. To keep to keep their narrative of whatever they decided on a long time ago, that we needed to go through this in order to do. But here we are. That's the point. The good news is there's light at the end of the tunnel. The good news is there are thousands of years of peace, and the meek shall inherit the earth. It's in every kind of prophecy, whatever. All shamans believe it. And it's the arrogant people we need to pray for. We need to pray that they will understand, you can't damn take it with you, period. And you can't take it with you from a soul point of view because of what I read in James chapter 2 in the previous video. A man may have faith, but what good is faith if he doesn't prove it by his works? And if a man does good deeds, he doesn't have to have faith because he's already proved it. But a man who says he has faith, can he prove it by his works? So those people who go by all the rules in the universe, as it says in chapter 2 of James, if you obey 99 out of 100 of the rules, but you skimp on that one rule, then all the other 99 are null and void, pun intended, but it makes it null and void, because then it makes everything bad. Just because you do 99% of it right doesn't get you by. It don't work that way. You got to do it 100%. You've heard me discuss it in my own belief system. I was like, well, some of this, I really believe it, but I was just hedging a bet. And I didn't realize it till a couple of years ago. But when I took that extra step and went from 99% to 100.1%, a whole nother reality came over me. And I went, oh, crap, it really does make a difference. So in that same thing, we must totally believe 100.1%. We are spiritual beings. And regardless of this meat suit, we're going to exist after we leave. And that if we were created, like they say, by the source energy of goodness, then there's no way we could have an original sin. Now, the message is that there are those who would believe that we may have acquired, and somebody may have kind of twisted that, like, well, we don't want to talk about karma, but maybe when you come into this life, you kind of pulled some negative energy with you, and we're going to call that original sin. Now, that's a stretch, but if you studied anything about karma and this and that, and from the different Eastern religions, one would say, well, one might say that if we come into this incarnation, we have this residual that maybe the Catholics called, oh, well, that's our original sin. But now if you take their same construct, Jesus died to clean us up, so that don't make sense neither. It's one of them oxymoronic things. And the more I kind of look at it, the angels kind of send me these little whispers down, like, think about it. And I'm like, but wait a minute. No, think about it. Glass. How they know about glass in the, 1st century AD. Glass. Think about it. Wait a minute. Let me read that passage again. Oh, holy crap. Where'd they come up with glass? Anyway, so let me read some of your comments. I love you all. I do. Thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing me to come into your houses, homes, tree huts, yurts, bungalows, abodes, cardboard box if you have a cell phone, possibly, or out driving around like Pamela does sometimes. Anyway, I'm kind of reading from the back, but Revelations 3:16. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Animals like the zebra are black and white because they are in fear and in need of each other. Actually, the black and the white messes with the cat's eyes. They can't see them. They literally can't see them. And in certain camouflages, the zebras with the black and white, it's all about camouflage. It really is. But anyway, but I get the other idea. This panda is scared in the tree, but the grizzly bear knows the tree and is brown because it adapts and is the tree. Okay, I kind of get where you're going with that. Um, I'm old. Whoosh. Are they testing? I don't know about testing underground. There's some things up in there, up around northwest Georgia, and there's also an old volcano at the up near where this Trentville or Trent. I can't remember the name of it right off, but you can look on USGS. Now, what I do when you go to the USGS and go to the earthquakes, I always go up to the settings, of which it drops down on the right hand side of your screen, and I always pick 7 days, all magnitudes, and I just choose right around the United States. Now, I'm interested in the rest of the planet, but I don't live on the rest of the planet. I live on the East Coast, and where my visions and so forth, and where I'm told to do as a watchman is to observe the East Coast of the United States and down in Mexico and so forth and along the Atlantic Ridge. But anyway, but make sure you choose all magnitudes for the last 7 days. Now, there are things that have happened recently you don't see there, but there's been consistent earthquakes along the eastern side of Tennessee and in North Carolina. There was a couple in the Western Virginia. They've been having them in Pennsylvania. There was one just the other day in Rhode Island, a 2 point something. So, but anyway, so there's definitely some movement going on the planet. And, I've been watching this for many years, and the activity is absolutely increased. Now, is it like, oh my God, we're all going to die? No, but we are in a big shift. Just we need to just understand it. Now, in another video, I'm going to discuss more about the Earth wobble and so forth. But I've been doing some checking as I ought to do. And the other night, just to give you a little update while we're here at this one, and you guys are hanging out with me. When I walk, my house is like 10 degrees off of due north and south because it's a solar house. I've talked about this before. But when I go outside, in order for me to look for the North Pole, all I need to do is walk to that side of the house, because this side of the house got a big tree. But I walk to that side of the house and just line up the edge of the house and the edge of the roof line, and it should point to the North Pole. Recently, I have to walk up the hill and away from the house before I can see the North Pole. Now, when I laid this house out in 1984 and 1985, 1984 ain't that strange, but I laid this house in 1984, and I mean, I'll show this picture again just to give you, but this was my original homestead, and I'm sitting right here right now. Is that right? Yeah. I'm sitting right here right now in where the house is. So all this, and I've changed the headline and everything like that. But when this is in 1984. That's what my house looked like with the trailer behind it. So I've been homesteading this place for a long time. But my point of this is that when I say I lined the house up, here's the original picture of this portion of the house, and its position. I didn't pick it up and move it. So when I go outside and look north, the North Pole should be right there. It's 15 or 20 degrees way out. I got to walk away from the house to even find the damn thing. The second thing I noticed, and this was just the other day, I walked out to the truck after I went to the store for groceries and came back, and my truck is like 15, maybe 20 feet from the house, maybe. Actually, it's 10 steps would be about 20 feet. So I walked out to the truck, turned around and looked up. It was fairly clear. And I noticed that the North Star was a full hand width above my house. Normally, when I want to see the North Pole, because I was so close to the house, I'd have to walk, I don't know, another 20 steps, which had been another 40 feet into the yard to be able to see the North Pole. But the North Pole was so high that night, Orion was really cocked. The dog star Sirius is really not in the same position. And what is suggested greatly is not only is the earth, it's rocking back and forth north to south, but where before it was about a 5 degree to maybe 10, and once in a while a 15-degree wobble, we're at a constant 20 to 25-degree wobble like this. The top is doing this number. And so, and we're going up and down because otherwise, last night before it got cloudy again and started to rain, I went outside and I had to go around the house to see the North Pole. So several days ago, it was this high above the house. Now I have to go around the house to see it. So how is it my house ain't moving? And so the North Pole, it's got to be the Earth wobble. There's no other explanation. And Orion is never in the same place 2 or 3 nights in a row. The other night, last night it was shifted down. Sirius was all cocked up when I looked for the North Pole. So are things happening? Oh, yes, indeedy. Should be scared, terrified, or otherwise? No. Best we can do is be prepared in all ways. Have our spirits as clean as possible, regardless of what happens on this planet. But there are definitely changes. I mean, I've got stuff growing in the yard. There are some birds back this spring, which I've been amazed because in some of my last year and previous videos, the birds have disappeared around here. So it's like, wait a minute. Even in my earlier video today, I was like, there's a female cardinal. First that I've seen this year. And it's like, wow, this is just March now it's the 3rd, but only holy mackerel, the birds are moving back in. I didn't see any birds move in or even go through last year. I was like, where's all the freaking birds? So something's going on, and it seems positive because now I can see the birds. I'm seeing some plants, native plants that are coming out in my field that I haven't seen in a couple of years. That's interesting. I've learned about another weed that's called rattlesnake weed, and it's edible. And so now I have another food source that I kind of thought I had, but wasn't sure, but I've gotten more confirmation now. And I plan on doing another video, some more on, and I'll show you one of the books. I don't know if it's backwards or not, but anyway, it's medicinal plants. It's the Eastern Central medicinal plants, and it's a Peterson's Field Guide. Now, I suggest to any one of you that are interested in minerals, in herbs, in whatever, get a Peterson's. They are absolutely excellent. I've used this book so much that the color plates on the inside have literally come loose, and I have to keep them tucked into the book. And I've glued them back together and other stuff, but when flipping through them and trying to find out, and there's really good information. And this has to do with Eastern and Central medicinal plants because I don't live on the West Coast, but they have them for the Central and Pacific and mountain areas. So, but information is still good. There are similar plants in other parts of the world, and the reference is like, well, there might be something in Britain or this was brought over. Anyway, really good book. So I'm going to have some more discussion on medicinal plants because there are things already here on this planet that if you wish to heal, sometimes all you need to do is go find some of these things. You can find a woods near you. And if you actually knew what you were looking for, or what your problems are, I noticed that there are some of the things that I remember. For example, there's a simple, and down here we've got this little version of plantain. And the little spikes that grow up off of it are only about this tall, and they're beautiful little plants. I mean, they sell some of these things for terrariums and things, but down here in the swamp and stuff in certain areas, they grow all over the place. There's hundreds of them, maybe even thousands. But in the medicinal areas of things, for example, that the plantain is good for sores and mosquito bites, and it's good in tinctures that you can take with a little bit of tea or something. And so there are all these things that the Creator gave us on this planet, regardless of the sin we made in any previous existence. And we always have the free choice to say, from this point forward, I choose to change my behavior. So let's continue to do so. Although I've never sat down and had coffee with you all specifically, but you all hang out with me, and I am so humbled by the fact that you do hang out with me. We are friends forever. We're spiritual beings. If anything ever happens to me, I'll see you on the other side. I would bet you. Not that I'm trying to speak down about it, but with that said, so let me scan a little bit more. You haunt yourself, Marie. At 66, I feel like, if I leave, there's going to be an essence left in this house. Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily plan on haunting the place, but it'd be interesting after going to the other side. And do I need to come back, or is the haunting going to be my essence that was absorbed into the house? Because I mean, I built the damn thing. There, it was just dirt. You saw this picture. Um, there wasn't anything here at all. It was a rice field that got mowed, and that's where I built my house. And out, that's was the front door. This is actually the back of the house. But to the point, I truly homesteaded this place. I dug the well out there with a pickaxe and a shovel and post hole diggers, to 22 feet, and I get a lot of clay, which has cleared up some of my what may be accumulations of heavy metals, because my well is dug into natural clay. And the natural clay is already, I mean, every time I drink coffee, there's a little bit of the clay still in minute particles that are still in the water. So, I've actually am better off than a lot of people across the world because of the type of clay that I have, and during all of this, I listened to Creator. I listened to the angels in my homesteading. I used somebody to help me which where I dug the well. I mean, all of these things has been a spiritual journey for me. Now, I know everybody can't do what I did, but in this lifetime, my soul journey and my contract were to do these things. It was to learn these things for whatever reason. And now I understand it's so that, my water's more is going to, I dug that well and all that sweat and blood and et cetera. Is that it's for my own health. Other people can come out here and drink my water. It has an earthy taste. People are like, well, your water tastes good. I'm like, yeah, there's clay in it and there's minerals and, there is a taste to it. It doesn't taste like a bottle, or like chlorine. And yeah, I run it through filters and stuff, but there's still a residual of minute particles in how the clay is absorbed into the water. And it's like, I don't worry about it anymore. It's like, oh, you got dirty water. No, there's clay in it. It's a lot different. There aren't any germs or anything, or I'd be constantly having the craps. I don't. And nobody else that's drank my water has ever gotten sick from the water. So I know it's not that. But I also know that the clay content and so forth does help clean the heavy metals and other things in my body. So by listening to my Creator and by listening to the angels and the spirits here, I have accumulated these things by paying attention. So we make choices all the time. And some of the choices I made, back in 1984 was starting out with a homestead. Sometimes you got to start somewhere. And now the house is too damn big for me. Now I live in a space about that big, in the house, even though there's more space, but only me and one person. It's like, I really don't need the rest of the house. It's weird, but at the same time. But anyway, so, but to the original sin, I would just ask you, love your wisdom, much appreciation. Thank you very much, One Cup. And Marie, I don't ask people how old they are, but would you say you're old? But at 66, I'm like, so what's next? I don't know, but I ain't giving up. I was outside earlier today thinking, I got to start running again. And it's like, wait a minute. Some people are going, what? I'm 66. You want me to run? I run to the bathroom 10 times a day. Why do you want me to run outside in one direction? Can I just run in a cycle in case I gotta go poo? And then I ain't gotta, I run all that way out there. What if I gotta go? You want me to drop my drawers in the yard? The neighbors will see me. Oh, geez. But to that point, I think back, I'm going through, and I'm relating this to our way to the inner child is through the closet behind the skeletons of the toxic adult mind. So I just went into another little bit of like, what? I want to be this old guy, a crippled guy with a cane. I know people that are younger than me, and it's like, you know, wait a minute. You're thinking old. I'm 66. Yeah, I got a bunch of years. But I want to turn this thing around because I choose to. Now, whether I make it, well, I'm not really worried. But it's my choice in that I choose to just not continue to, oh, well, I'm getting so damn old. No, 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 no. Attitude is everything. There are people down in St. Petersburg and so forth that, you can't get on I don't know if it's still there, but I would imagine it is. But back when I was living down there, you couldn't get on this one particular softball team unless you were 70. So I still got 4 more years before they would even allow me to, audition for this particular softball game or softball team. So it's like, what? Age discrimination? But to the point, though, that's the kind of thing we need to have. Well, maybe I got this or maybe I got that. Well, if you worry about shit and if you stay in the hate all the time, wait a minute. Let's all change our attitude and keep up the good attitude. There are folks, oh God, here you are. You're promoting love again. If we do things with a pure heart, and we don't have to go preaching to people, but if we just show people that we're honest and we're true to our nature, if we go being a shyster to somebody and they pick it up and they call you on it, it's, well, there goes, there's some more hate and distrust in the world. But if we go back to our original self, and I choose to go back to the idea that I didn't have an original sin. I was created in the image and likeness of God with a pure spirit. It's through my reincarnation I've picked up garbage. I have already chosen to not go there. Fix as much as I possibly can. And with the knowledge of, I don't know what happened in the past, but I'm going to ask my past for forgiveness in this realm. Now, to the thing about when I pass on from here, I don't intend to be a servant to anything because of what Creator gave each one of our souls, the right to choose. I don't think Creator, and I know a lot of folks, if we are made from source energy, how can source want us to be servants of God? Then that, if we're going to serve God, then doesn't that take the equation out of having a free choice? Doesn't that knock that out of the ballpark? Doesn't it say that, wait a minute, I'm sorry, but you're saying, whoa, I got free will down here on the earth, but when I die, I'm going to become a servant of God. Doesn't being a servant mean that you got to follow rules and stuff? That doesn't that take away our free choice? I'm sorry, but I've read that. I've understood this before, but I look at the words and I go, we're going to become servants? I thought we were going to become angels and we were going to sit with Jesus. We were going to sit with them, not that we were going to go and bow down to the throne and be the servants of God. Because if we're servants, then we don't have free will. We're slaves. And I choose, hang on, maybe that's part of their matrix, but it ain't part of mine. My matrix says in this great Spider Woman of the universe idea, my choice is, nah, I'm sorry, but I wasn't put here to serve anybody, not in my shaman reality, because none of us, if I choose to do something for you, then I may be of service to you. That's one thing. But if you tell me I'm better than you and therefore you must serve me, oh, screw you. It don't work that way. Now, I may still choose in my own realm. It's better to just go along with you, not say anything, but in my head, I'm like, nah, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Okay, dokie. But in my head, I'm like, nah, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with you. You thought, well, I got one up on them. I'm better than they are. Yeah, but when your sink clogs up, you call me because I'll get that shit out for you. I'll clean up your septic tank. I'll do what but your shit, yeah, it smells worse than mine. Trust me, I've cleaned both. But anyway, different story, off topic. But I want to tell you all that I do absolutely love you all as beyond, 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 because you have chosen to be part of the league of like-minded beings, and we are making the difference. Let's keep up the good work. Understand that there are a lot of changes in progress. Hang on to our inner tubes. Let me. I went up a ways. Um, why don't people ride zebras? In certain places, they do. But zebras aren't horses. They're zebras. Just saying. But there are folks who have tamed zebras. There might have been even a movie about it or something, but it's very similar to a horse, but not. But that doesn't mean that you can't train a zebra. Um, yes, it depends on how you interpret servant, Marie. I absolutely, as to bend the hands which serve in the living as he is in the spirit. Slave is to be used against your will, so it's free will. But my point of bringing this up is that, wait a minute, they're saying that we're not, we're down here on this planet with free will, but then we're going to become servants of the Lord. In my realm, we are in service to the universe, which could be interpreted as being a servant. But that's why I'm making the distinction, Marie. Absolutely. I choose to be of service because I do these videos and have chats with you to help make the distinction, because I ain't going to be nobody's servant in the next realm. I will, of course, because of my spirit, be of service to someone in another realm. Absolutely. Because that's part of the universal thing. We are in service to each other. You know how to make apple pie? I'll mow your lawn. I will be in service to you, but that don't mean I'm your servant. I'll cut your lawn for an apple pie, but in that respect, I will provide a service. But there are people, and it says servant in that old. Wow, strange noises outside. Oh, and by the way, the owls were going nuts earlier. I mean, just, and close by too. But way down in the woods, it was like echoing. They were talking back and forth. Um, but angels replace kindness. But you understand what I mean about the difference. So, my point to this is that they have changed the words of things, and when you read it in particular ways, I just know that in my angel being going back into my angel self, I will be of service to the universe, which is of the source. But I ain't being a servant to no God, no 3-letter word that way, because that in my realm that limits me to the heaven with the pearly gates, which is, in my opinion, a gated community that I don't want to be a part of. But I wish to think beyond that. So thank you, Marie. I've got headphones on so I can hear them. Whatever it is that's going on outside. I mean, for this little Chromebook, it's got an excellent speaker, but there's something going on outside. It's like, whoa. And also for down here, now I live between a couple of cemeteries. There's an Indian chief that's buried at the top of the hill. I ain't lying. They found 250 spearheads, arrowheads, knives, and things made out of plant. Some of the most beautiful work you've ever done at that way up the hill, about 300 feet, about the length of a football field. So it's like there are entities and things that roam around here. Plus, there was an interdimensional portal that many of us saw years ago, and I'm not sure if it still exists. I haven't been down to that area of the woods, But there are many people. There was about 15 of us that witnessed these beings going to and fro through this kind of Stargate kind of portal. It was the damn wildest thing. We all, if you could say, well, okay, it was a hallucination. Then how come we all saw it? There have been one or two people. Do you see that? What's it look like? And somebody kind of share an hallucination. But for people that were like, wait a minute, I see it too. And I don't usually see this kind of shit. So, but it was magic mushrooms that brought us all to a point to where we saw this real thing with our all collective eyes going, oh, holy crap, you see that? Yeah. I don't know if I should talk about it. Is it a big circle? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. One or two people, maybe not a group. But so in that respect, though, there are a lot of entities that have passed through here. I was talking with a friend of mine, and I was like, I because I live in the house and there's a stairs right there that I've slipped down a few times in my lifetime. Damn near killed me once. But I put battery operated motion detector kind of lights in the house. So instead of plugging in a night light, if I'm coming across upstairs to the top of the stairs, I put in this battery operated motion light. So as I got close to the top of the stair was light up long enough for me to come down the stairs. Then another one right above my head would come on, because as I came down the stairs, it would turn it on. And then as I reached down here, there was another one right over here that turned on, so I could see my way to the kitchen. So I didn't have to flip on anything, just keep the batteries on. So anyway, as I walked through the house, the light would come on, then it would go off. So blump, 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 till I got to the kitchen. On my way back, I would flip them on. And so the one at the top of the stairs was positioned. So as I went up the stairs, it would come on so I could see the top of the stairs. They just got old and over the years. Now, here's my point to this. I'd be sitting right here where I'm at because the top of the stairs is right there. I mean, like 20 feet, 15 feet away, going up. And anyway, but I would be sitting here and the light would come on and then it'd go off. I go, well, okay. And then just a second or two later, the one over my head would come on. So something was upstairs, turned on the light, came down the stairs, and then turned the one over my head on. I go, now that shit's interesting, because there's nothing else in here. There's no flies or anything. I've done all kinds of things over the years to try to set these things off, right? Something must visibly be going past these motion detectors because it shows the direction they're going. There were times when this one would turn on. Now, they could be passing through the house, but then when you see the one at the top of the stairs go on, you go, well, guess they wanted to go upstairs for some reason. Now, you saw the picture of my house. There wasn't anything here. Much love, One Cup. I think somebody dropped out. I know this is getting too long, so I need to shut. But anyway, to finish this up here about this, so I have a lot of proof of entities, and you can do these things too and get these there's a solar light that you can buy for like $5 and set it at motion. So when you walk around, it'll set it off. And so, hello, Debbie Gonzalez. Pleased to see you. Blessings to you. But so, I mean, do ghosts exist? Do beings from other realms exist? Absolutely. There are lots of things that you can do, and you can scratch your head. But, with this revelation of all of these things, it tips the hat to me. Thank you. Blessing, Michelle. Good to seeing you as well. So with all of this is a service to others, is service to self. If God is to you the human family, much love. Thank you. One Cup, two people. So, but anyway, so understand that these things really do exist, and the veil is being lifted. We are here at the apocalypse, which is not the end of the world, but it's the end. It's the changing of the guards, and we are all here to experience this in our own ways. I'm like giddy. I was listening to Drake Bailey earlier today on his radio program, and some of the things he's been talking about. And usually he's like, well, I don't know when this is going to happen. Nah, he's like, E.T. and the cosmic and everything. And there are certain things in place now. There's no way we can go backwards. There are certain things that just had to happen in certain timelines. And I know Simon Parks have been talking about that this time of year in 2019 was going to show some big stuff. And Simon's been talking about this for 4, 5, 6, at least since 2017. So at least 2 years ago, Simon Parks was referring to what was going to happen now. And I myself have been shown these things a lot along with other people. So have been able to prove it, like, well, this is going to happen. Well, I'm having this conversation with you now, and I'm humbled that I have been able to be a messenger. But just look at the science, look at the stuff around you. Don't trust my word for it, but it's there. And I had to understand this so I could be truthful and honest with you, because otherwise, by oh, I just don't want to lie. That just it can't work that way. So in my own self, even if I tried to tell a fib, I would like, no, it just wouldn't work with me. And once you get to a certain place in your spirituality, however it is, there's some things there ain't no way you cannot go back. So it is with the planet at this particular time, because I've talked about the 144,000, and I think it's a Jehovah Witness that believe the 144,000 are going to heaven, and I'm like, only 144,000? There's 7 billion people on this planet. That's a restricted club. And listen to Cobra and some of the other things, and you know the changes coming, the big event, and all this stuff. And it's like, but the thing is that this is the big event. We're here. Let's make the most of it. Let's stay in our positive sides. Let's understanding that it's all much bigger than what we even imagine. And I got a good imagination, and it's even bigger than that. So thank you all. Blessings, blessing, blessing. This is Sunday morning early, so a little bit for some of us. Maybe this is a little bit like church, but I spout these things for your consideration. But understand that when we take what's been written, we got to understand it was written by people. All right, none of it was written by God. It was inspired by God. And those would say, well, what about the 10 Commandments and what Moses and all that? If you believe in the shaman role, a lot longer than Christianity, there is but one law in the universe, and that is to do no harm to anything. And when you understand that one law and what that one law means, the 10 Commandments don't even cover it all. And the first 3 or 4 are all about God and who you worship and all this other kind of crap. But if you observe the law of the one universe, that's even stated in Revelations, I might add, is that if you understand the universal law of do no harm, then you don't need any other rule. It fits all things, all situations. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessings to all of you. Keep your humor up. Keep your wits about you. Keep your spirits going. And I close with the prayer. I continue to pray that each one of you will accept and receive, and accept and receive, and receive and accept some more, the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom from the universe. I continue to pray that each one of you, your friends, your family, your relatives, and all of your relations, that you will all continue to accept and receive these healings and blessings and the wisdom of the universe. I will continue to pray that each one of you will continue to accept and receive all of these blessings, and that, as I know you do and will do, continue to share these blessings with others. It's free of charge and always there. So thank you, Michelle. And all right, back to you, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're all doing good work. Keep it up. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm getting hoarse. It's been 2 hours. I did a video earlier, and I'm like, I need some coffee. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Good morning. Have a wonderful Sunday, Marie. So it will be on earth as it is in heaven. Amen. Thank you, Marie. So blessings, blessings, blessings. It's been a wonderful session with you all. Thank you much. So have a great one. And as we always say out here in South Georgia, cosmic hugs all round and TTFN. Ta ta for now. Bye, y'all.